Just after midnight, a man walks down a quiet street carrying a white laundry basket. He disappears behind a smoke shop. The next morning, a construction worker opens a dumpster and discovers something that will haunt him forever. Inside that basket was a secret so horrifying it would tear apart a peaceful Illinois neighborhood. This is the story of Lisa Dodd. But first, an important note. All images you're about to see are AI-generated recreations based on court records and testimony. Out of respect for Lisa and her family, no actual crime scene photos or footage are shown. Now, let's dive into what really happened on that June night in 2022. Alton, Illinois, June 9th, 2022. It's a typical Thursday morning in this quiet suburb just outside St. Louis. Construction workers are hauling debris to a big red dumpster parked on the street. Then one of them sees something that doesn't belong. According to his police interview, there were clothes scattered everywhere, a laundry basket, and shoes with what looked like blood on them. He immediately knows something is very, very wrong. While this is happening, just a few blocks away, a mother named Heidi Knoll is pulling up to her daughter's apartment. Her daughter, Lisa, is 22 years old, 8 months pregnant, due any day now. Heidi hasn't heard from her since the night before. No texts, no calls. For a young woman who usually responds within minutes, this is completely out of character. Heidi uses her key to enter the apartment. 2 minutes later, neighbors see her stumble back outside, barely able to breathe. She calls 911, and what she tells the dispatcher will stay with them forever. "My daughter's boyfriend killed her. He chopped her head off." Police arrived to find Lisa's body in her bedroom, and what Heidi said was true. The horror of what happened in that apartment is almost beyond comprehension. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to who Lisa was before this nightmare began. Before we go any further into this tragedy, you need to know who Lisa Dodd really was. Born in Alton on August 14, 1999, Lisa was the kind of person who lit up a room. When she turned 10, instead of asking for birthday presents, she organized a fundraiser for the local animal shelter. At 10 years old, that tells you everything you need to know about her heart. After graduating from Jersey Community High School in 2017, she started working at Dairy Queen. According to her former boss, customers remembered her as vibrant, friendly, always smiling, the kind of employee who made people's day better just by taking their order. But she wasn't just serving ice cream to pass the time. She was saving up. She had big dreams of going into the medical field, following in her mother's footsteps. And in June 2022, she was preparing for the biggest moment of her life. She was 8 months pregnant with a baby girl. They hadn't picked out a name yet. The family just called her Baby Bean. According to testimony, Lisa had just sent out baby shower invitations. She was gathering supplies, decorating the nursery, dreaming about holding her daughter for the first time. A future that was just weeks away. But there was something standing between Lisa and that future, a pattern of violence that had been building for nearly 2 years, and a man named DeAndre Holloway. DeAndre Holloway was 22 years old, the same age as Lisa. They'd been in an on-again, off-again relationship for close to 2 years, and from the very beginning, according to multiple witnesses, there were red flags everywhere. Lisa's boss at Dairy Queen testified that she started noticing bruises, black eyes, marks on Lisa's arms that looked like fingerprints, like someone had grabbed her. At first, Lisa made excuses. "My dog jumped up and hit me. I bumped into something." But eventually, the truth came out. Her boss witnessed DeAndre punch Lisa in the face while they sat in a car in the Dairy Queen parking lot. When Lisa came back inside to work, her face was red and swollen. In July 2021, Lisa ended up in the hospital with a broken nose and 2 black eyes. In September of that same year, she sent her boss a text message that was later entered as evidence. It read, "My boyfriend beat me again and I had to go to my mom's. They're wanting me to stay in a safe place because he's threatened before to harm us. Is there any way I could get my shift covered until things settle down?" She was asking to switch a work shift while fleeing for her safety. But like so many victims of domestic violence, Lisa went back. The cycle continued. According to testimony from his family, DeAndre was struggling with serious mental health issues. His stepfather later stated publicly that they'd been trying to get him professional help for at least 3 years, but the mental health system kept failing them. He couldn't be held for treatment unless he'd already committed a crime. I want to be crystal clear. I'm not telling you this to excuse what he did. Nothing, and I mean nothing, excuses what he did to Lisa and her unborn child. But to understand how we got to that terrible night in June, you need to see the full picture. 2 people in crisis, a relationship built on violence and instability, and a system that failed, and a tragedy that was, in hindsight, almost inevitable. Tuesday, June 7th, 2022, 8 p.m. According to phone records and text messages entered into evidence, Lisa comes home from work to find that DeAndre isn't there. He hasn't told her where he's going. He's taken some clothes. His phone is left on the counter. At 9 p.m., Lisa texts her mom. The message reads, "You think he'd just leave like this? I think I got left." Her mom, Heidi, tries to calm her down. She can see this might actually be a blessing in disguise. She's been worried about her daughter for months. She texts back, "If this is how it's meant to happen, at least it was nonviolent. You've been set free." But Lisa isn't seeing it that way yet. She's 8 months pregnant, exhausted, emotional, and terrified of being alone. The conversation takes a dark turn when Lisa admits something that made Heidi's blood run cold. "I broke a razor down and cut my leg because I told him I was just going to kill myself." Her mom asks why. Lisa responds, "Because I just can't get it right." This young woman was in so much pain, she couldn't see a way out. Whether DeAndre stayed or left, she felt trapped. Wednesday morning arrives. Still no DeAndre. Lisa texts her mom at 7:06 a.m. Still no. She goes through her morning routine, washing her work clothes for her shift later, trying to maintain some sense of normalcy, but she's worried, really worried. She starts reaching out to DeAndre's family members. She texts her landlord asking if he can check the building's security cameras to see when DeAndre left and what he was wearing. The landlord reviews the footage and tells Lisa that DeAndre left Tuesday evening around 6:24 p.m. with his Uncle Marty. He was supposed to be back that same night, but he never returned. Then, around 8 p.m. Wednesday night, Lisa receives a text from her uncle. "I'm bringing him back. Everything's fine." Lisa drives to pick up DeAndre from his uncle's place in St. Louis, just across the river. While in the car, she texts her mom one last time. "I'm trying to figure it out." That text was sent at 9:11 p.m. It was the last message Lisa Dodd would ever send. By 10:49 p.m., when her mother texted, "You okay?" Lisa was already dead. What happened inside that apartment between 9:11 p.m. and 10 p.m. is almost too horrible to put into words, but the neighbors downstairs heard it all, and their testimony at trial painted a picture of absolute terror. Lisa and DeAndre's apartment was on the 2nd floor. Below them lived a young couple who had, unfortunately, gotten used to hearing them fight. Loud arguments, things being slammed against walls. Once it got so bad they had to call the police. But according to their sworn testimony, the night of June 8th was different. They arrived home around 9:30 p.m. and immediately noticed something odd. Lisa and DeAndre's front door was cracked just slightly, which was unusual. Then they heard muffled yelling. Not quite screaming, they said, but yelling in a way that sounded like someone was in pain, like someone who had just cut their finger and was trying not to scream too loud. Then, the apartment above them started shaking. Not uncommon when they fought. The building was old. Movement upstairs could be felt downstairs. At first, the neighbors thought, okay, another fight, we'll wait outside until it calms down. But then, they testified, around 9:45 to 9:50, the screaming got much louder, more intense, more desperate. And then they heard 5 or 6 loud thuds, each one louder than the last, each one shaking the entire building. When police asked what it sounded like, the neighbor struggled to find the words. Finally, he said it reminded him of chopping wood. Steady, rhythmic, forceful. Lift, aim, strike. Again, again, again. Then, according to testimony, everything stopped. The screaming stopped. The thuds stopped. The shaking stopped. Complete silence. The neighbors testified that they heard someone walk outside onto the patio for about 2 minutes, then come back in, then go upstairs. They were too scared to look and see who it was. They texted their landlord saying something was seriously wrong, that they'd heard screaming and thumping for 5 minutes straight. The landlord tried to reach Lisa. No response. The neighbors said they stayed outside watching the apartment. Usually, after a fight, one of them would come downstairs, but neither Lisa nor DeAndre appeared. The lights in the apartment kept turning on and off. Someone was definitely up there. The neighbors assumed it was Lisa. They had no idea that Lisa was already gone, and that the person moving around upstairs was cleaning up the crime scene. According to security camera records from multiple businesses in the area, here's what happened next. At 11:57 p.m., just over 2 hours after Lisa was killed, a figure emerges from the apartment building. The person is wearing dark clothing and what appears to be a face covering. They're carrying a white laundry basket. The person walks to Lisa's car, stands there for a moment, apparently realizing they don't have the keys, then goes back inside. A few minutes later, they come back out, still carrying the laundry basket. They walk down the street past quiet homes where families are sleeping. They disappear behind a smoke shop. A business surveillance camera from across the street captures what happens next. At 12:01 a.m., now June 9th, the white laundry basket is thrown into the dumpster, along with bags of clothing. Inside that basket, investigators would later discover, was Lisa's head, severed from her body, wrapped and hidden like trash. At 2 a.m., Lisa's black car disappears from the parking lot. DeAndre is driving it. He's headed to his mother's house on the other side of town. According to testimony from DeAndre's half-sister, he showed up at his mother's house around 2:30 in the morning, banging frantically on the door. She said he was pacing, nervous, acting completely off. He was driving Lisa's car. Lisa was nowhere to be seen. The next morning, around 10 a.m., his sister found him in the bathroom. He was cutting off his hair. DeAndre had been growing his dreadlocks for 2 years. He was proud of them. When his sister asked why he was cutting them off, he said, "Fresh start." He asked his mom if he could shower and get some clean clothes. She gave him a pair of gray sweatpants. The clothes he'd been wearing, a blue bucket hat, dark hoodie, and pants, he took outside and left by the trash can. Later, he came back and threw them in the garbage. Then, things got even stranger. DeAndre's grandmother testified that he gave her Lisa's driver's license and debit card. When she asked why he had his girlfriend's ID, he didn't have an answer. He just stared at her like he was in a daze. He also gave her 2 keys, claiming he found them on the ground. And Lisa's car? He parked it on a nearby street with a handwritten "For Sale" sign in the window. Every single one of these actions screams consciousness of guilt. He's making himself less recognizable, he's disposing of evidence, he's getting rid of Lisa's property, he's trying to distance himself from her car. And while all of this is happening, Lisa's mother is about to make the most horrifying discovery of her life. At 12:59 p.m. on June 9th, police respond to Heidi's 911 call. They find Lisa's body in her bedroom, decapitated. Her head is missing from the scene. Heidi immediately tells police, "My daughter's boyfriend killed her." Even without being there, even without seeing what happened, a mother knew. Police start looking for DeAndre Holloway. They execute a search warrant at his mother's house that same evening. In the trash can outside, they find exactly what his sister said they would: the blue bucket hat, the dark hoodie, the pants, and his cut-off dreadlocks wrapped in toilet paper. DeAndre himself is gone. Police prepare for a possible manhunt. But then, at 1:45 a.m. on June 10th, the early morning hours, they get a call from the Gillespie Police Department, a small town about 30 minutes away. That afternoon, Gillespie police had arrested someone for possession of cannabis, a John Doe who refused to give his name. Later, they realized who they had. It was DeAndre Holloway. The manhunt was over before it began. According to police reports, DeAndre was erratic in custody. He paced constantly. He questioned the officers over and over. At one point, he started laughing and banging his head against the wall. Officers had to physically restrain him on the floor to keep him from hurting himself. Through all of it, he refused to give his name. He kept saying he needed to get to work. It wasn't clear if he even had a job. When Alton investigators came to question him about Lisa's murder, he shut down completely. He wouldn't talk, wouldn't confirm his identity even though they already knew who he was. He said he was dissociated and that he'd been prescribed medication by a doctor. Then he asked for a lawyer, and the interview was over. On June 13, 2022, DeAndre Holloway was formally charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of intentional homicide of an unborn child, offenses relating to a human body, offenses relating to motor vehicles, concealment of a homicidal death. His bond was set at $2 million. The case sent shockwaves through Alton. The police chief called it beyond surreal and completely terrible. DeAndre's stepfather, Chris Hawk, posted a YouTube video a week after the murder. In it, he expressed condolences to Lisa's family. He acknowledged what DeAndre did was an extreme act of evil, but he also said the family had been trying to get DeAndre mental health treatment for years, and the system wouldn't help until he'd already committed a crime. His stepfather said, "I'm not advocating that DeAndre should ever be allowed to enter civilized society again. He's obviously crossed a line there. I'm just saying there's a human being here, and it's tragic what mental illness has done to him." The case hit several delays. DeAndre was found mentally unfit to stand trial and sent to a state institution for treatment until he could regain competency. The Illinois Supreme Court also ruled that an unborn child couldn't be considered a second murder victim for the purpose of seeking a life sentence. This affected the potential sentence DeAndre could receive. But in January 2024, a year and a half after Lisa's death, DeAndre entered a guilty plea. No trial, no jury, just guilty. On January 17, 2025, DeAndre Holloway was sentenced to 60 years in prison, 30 years for the murder charge, 20 years for the homicide of an unborn child, 10 years for concealment, all to be served consecutively. This means he'll have to serve at least 52 years before he's eligible for parole. If he serves the full sentence, he'll be 82 years old when he's released. At the sentencing, Lisa's mother, Heidi, gave a statement. Her words deserve to be heard. She thanked the law enforcement agencies who worked the case, especially Officer Wilmersberg of the Alton Police Department. Then she said, "This is a tragic outcome of a 2-year on and off again domestic violence relationship. This didn't have to end this way. My daughter should be here raising her toddler instead of being a casualty of domestic violence. If you have a mental instability or mental illness, seek treatment and be consistent with your treatment. Understand that your condition or illness will not keep you from being held accountable for the crimes you commit. If you are in a domestic violence relationship, if someone is emotionally, mentally, or physically abusing you, make a safe plan to leave that relationship. If they continually disrespect your boundaries, make demeaning comments, and control your every movement, this is abuse. Find the resolve to leave that relationship. If someone threatens to end your life, believe them. If they can say it, think it, and talk about it, they can carry out the threat.
Hit the like button and subscribe for more true crime stories like this. I will see you in next one.